300 years of human history has disappeared, and that's true.
This isn't just about a missing rock layer or an ancient map drawn wrong. It's about cracks in the timeline we thought we trusted. In 1869, while studying cliffs in Wyoming, John Wesley Powell stumbled upon something deeply unsettling: a 425-million-year-old geological gap with no trace of what once existed. Since then, historians, scientists, and skeptics have uncovered even more alarming anomalies, centuries that may have never happened, popes who rewrote Europe's fate with forged documents, and ancient cities possibly wiped out by nuclear-level destruction. What if the history we've been taught isn't just incomplete, but intentionally manipulated? Let's begin. The Phantom Centuries and a Manufactured Empire. In 1991, German historian Herbert Illig presented a theory that shook the foundation of medieval chronology. He suggested that nearly 300 years of the Middle Ages, specifically between 614 and 911 AD, were fabricated. According to him, the Holy Roman Emperor Otto III, along with Pope Sylvester II, deliberately inserted these phantom centuries to legitimize Otto's connection to Charlemagne, the supposed founder of the Frankish Empire. Charlemagne, Illig claimed, never existed. He was an invented hero used to justify political control over Europe. At first, the idea sounded absurd, but archaeologists had long noted a strange lack of physical evidence from that exact time span. Buildings, artifacts, and records are mysteriously sparse. Even architecture shows odd stagnation. Churches built in the early 11th century resemble those from 3 centuries earlier. Documents from the period, once believed authentic, have been exposed as forgeries. Over 50% of medieval documents studied in a 1986 Munich conference were found to be fabricated or heavily altered. Could it be that a huge chunk of European history is nothing but a well-constructed lie? Or are we simply looking at a period so poorly preserved that it resembles a ghost in time? The Vatican's forged empire. Long before modern nations drew borders on maps, the Vatican may have redrawn history itself. One of the most audacious historical forgeries came in the form of the Donation of Constantine. According to this document, Roman Emperor Constantine the Great was miraculously cured of leprosy by Pope Sylvester III. In gratitude, he supposedly granted the Pope control over vast Roman territories, including Italy itself. The problem? The document was a fake. Pope Stephen II used it in the 8th century to pressure Pepin the Short, king of the Franks, into handing over conquered lands to the Church. Pepin, unable to read Latin, accepted the document as true. That one lie allowed the Vatican to slowly seize control over central Italy, territories they held for centuries. The forgery wasn't exposed until the late 16th century by Cardinal Caesar Baronius. And even then, it took until 1929 for the Church to officially acknowledge it. What else might lie in the Vatican's secret archives? These vast, restricted halls contain centuries of untold stories, and while only select scholars are allowed in, with heavy limitations, the world outside can only wonder what truths remain locked away, never to be questioned. Harappa and the nuclear shadows of prehistory. In 1829, explorer Charles Masson stumbled upon the ancient ruins of Harappa in present-day Pakistan. What he found didn't match anything historians had expected. Streets are aligned with mathematical precision. Complex sewage systems, public baths are sealed with resin. This was the Indus Valley civilization, thriving thousands of years before the Egyptian pyramids. But its sudden disappearance around 1300 BC raised unsettling questions. Then came an even bigger shock. In 1977, researcher David Davenport discovered a crater at one of the excavation sites. Inside it, rocks had been melted into a glass-like material, something only possible at extreme heat, comparable to a nuclear blast. Nearby soil showed radioactive traces 50 times above normal. Could this be the remnant of an ancient atomic war? Texts like the Mahabharata describe explosions brighter than 10,000 suns, and survivors who lost hair and developed sicknesses we now associate with radiation. Add to that the undeciphered tablets of the Indus civilization, possibly containing forgotten technologies, and the picture grows darker. If such a war did happen, who were the enemies? What knowledge was lost with them? And is our modern world just a rediscovery of something far older and more dangerous than we imagined? The Lost Continent Beneath the Waves. In 1642, Dutch explorer Abel Tasman set sail in search of a mysterious seventh continent. Guided by strange maps, including the 1513 Piri Reis chart, he believed a massive landmass lay hidden in the southern hemisphere, something to balance the northern weight of Eurasia. He didn't find it, but centuries later, his instincts were proven right. In 2017, a team of geologists studying the seabed near New Zealand discovered something astonishing. Buried beneath 2 kilometers of water lay slate sediment, fossilized pollen, and remnants of land-based life. This wasn't just the ocean floor. It was dry land once. They called it Zealandia. This submerged continent, about 2/3 the size of Australia, had apparently sunk around 25 million years ago. But no one can fully explain how or why an entire continent disappeared beneath the waves. Was it a natural tectonic collapse, or a cataclysm tied to something else entirely? Consider this. Just thousands of kilometers away sits Easter Island, home to giant stone heads built by an unknown civilization. What if those statues weren't built on an island at all, but on a mountaintop of Zealandia, back when it was still above the sea? Maybe we didn't lose a continent. Maybe we lost a civilization.
Now first, like always, be sure to hit the like button down below. It helps us out tremendously with the reach of this video. Thank you.
The Sahara's Eye and the Flooded Past. In 1965, American astronauts orbiting Earth spotted something strange in the middle of the Sahara Desert. A vast circular structure made of layered rock, perfectly concentric, like a bullseye. Known as the Eye of the Sahara or the Rishat structure, it spans nearly 50 kilometers. Geologists have debated its origins for decades, but one thing is clear: this was once underwater. Researchers studying the site discovered ancient sea salt embedded deep in its rocks, suggesting that 12,000 years ago, the Sahara may have been flooded. But how does an entire desert end up submerged and then dry again? Around the same time, Earth entered what some scientists call a cataclysmic period. Earthquakes, massive floods, sudden climate shifts. The land disappeared, continents changed shape. Some areas sank forever, like Zealandia. Others, like the Sahara, emerged but bore scars of their watery past. This theory begins to tie things together. If massive environmental upheaval reshaped the globe, what else did it erase? Cities? Civilizations? Histories? And then there's Easter Island again. Its enormous stone heads remain a mystery. But if it once stood on a mountaintop of a now sunken world, then those heads weren't markers of isolation, but monuments to something lost, far beneath the waves. Secrets buried in silence. Some mysteries are hidden not beneath rock or water, but behind locked doors. Deep within Vatican City lies the Apostolic Archive, one of the most secretive vaults on Earth.
The Apostolic Archive is located within Vatican City, the world's smallest sovereign state.
Only a handful of scholars over the age of 75 are allowed access, and even then, they can request just 3 documents at a time. The rest remains untouched by the public and unseen by most historians. What could be so dangerous in those scrolls and manuscripts? Possibly records from the missing centuries, or evidence of rewritten timelines, perhaps even ancient knowledge scientific, political, or spiritual, that could unravel the narrative we've built around civilization itself. The Vatican has already admitted to using forgeries like the donation of Constantine for over 1,000 years. What if that was only the beginning? Some believe the archives hold clues about long-lost technology, catastrophic wars, or early contacts with civilizations we no longer remember. The Church's power historically rested on controlling not just faith, but information. What better way to preserve control than by shaping history itself? Until those vaults are opened, the truth remains buried, not by time or disaster, but by silence and the fear of what it might reveal. When history becomes a puzzle. Sometimes the past doesn't feel lost, it feels rearranged. That's the core belief of Russian mathematician Anatoly Fomenko, whose theory called New Chronology proposes something almost unthinkable, that up to 1,500 years of human history never happened. According to Fomenko, historical timelines were deliberately distorted, with events duplicated under different names and eras. He even argues that figures like Vladimir the Great and Roman emperors were the same person under different titles, and that Jesus may have lived in the 12th or 15th century, not the 1st. His theory challenges everything from medieval manuscripts to astronomical records. Fomenko believes historical texts were retroactively written or altered by church authorities and political leaders to fabricate a narrative that served their agenda. He points to suspicious overlaps, statistical patterns, and recycled storylines as evidence that history, as we know it, may be an elaborate patchwork of myths and misinterpretations. Most academics dismiss his claims as pseudoscience, yet the very existence of such a theory reveals deep cracks in our collective memory. Whether Fomenko is right or wrong, his work highlights one unsettling truth. History isn't just about what we remember, it's about what we choose to forget. History isn't just what happened, it's what we've been told happened. And when fragments go missing, whether buried in radioactive soil, sunken continents, or sealed archives, we're left to fill the silence with stories. But what if those stories were crafted not to preserve truth, but to protect power? As we piece together ancient ruins, challenge sacred timelines, and question long-trusted records, we begin to see how fragile our understanding really is. The past isn't dead. It's hidden, beneath stone, beneath water, beneath lies. And maybe, just maybe, the greatest discovery of all won't be what we find, but what we finally unlearn.